But I'm framing this as the worst cop statistic yet, if not ever. In the past 3 years, Britain's biggest police force, London's Met, has failed to identify a single reported burglary in 166 neighbourhoods. So basically, there's been all of these burglaries in 166 neighbourhoods, and they haven't caught a single person. I mean, even by the Met standard, that is bad going, I would suggest. In the studio is former Met detective Mike Neville. Thanks for coming in, Mike. I mean, I know this is an old theme, but even by the modern police's standards, this is dreadful, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I was proud to be a Scotland Yard detective, and when we look at burglaries 10 years ago, the detection rate was 15%. Now it's less than 5%, so it's gone. But in that same 10 years, about 40% of people have invested in ring doorbells and home CCTV. So as the detection rate's gone down, the opportunities to solve the crime have gone up. And my expertise is solving crimes with images. I've emailed the Commissioner 6 or 7 times, even today, to say I will help. I emailed the head of the national lead on burglaries, is the Chief Constable in Warwick, which has got an even worse detection rate for burglary. But you'd think that they would say, come and do something. But I said to the Assistant Chief in Warwickshire today, it's 8 months since I messaged you. You know, no one's spoken. You know, who's going to speak to me? Because I know they think I'm a dinosaur or something, but there are officers like me who've got all sorts of expertise, could help them, and yet they seemingly just don't want to know. And it's tragic, because every victim of burglary has had their house violated. Yeah. You should be safe in your home, especially women, and it's a wicked thing to have that done. And these burglars carry on doing it because you'll never get caught.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here is it isn't, I would suggest, that the cops don't know how to catch burglars. It's that they don't particularly want to. They don't bother. It's a crime that no longer registers. You know, it's like bike thefts. It's like getting beaten up in the streets, like car thefts. There are all these crimes that the police force now seem to think is beneath them. And
it's really bad, because I live in Staffordshire, and I went to a post office, I spoke to 2 old ladies who are a bit like my mother, really, and they were saying the same people come in every day stealing. They steal more money's worth in the 10 minutes than they get for a 10-hour shift, and they're in fear. They get threatened with knives or needles, and they say they're all on CCTV, the police do nothing. Now, when obeying the law becomes the stupid option, society starts to break down. When you see that people getting away with badness time and time and time again, it has an insidious effect on the whole of society. And if people don't feel they're safe in their home, they'll do nothing. And the other thing as well about these burglaries, of course, is there'll be a lot more unsolved ones. But those people who don't report it are those who are uninsured. Because the only people who report in burglary these days are those the only benefit is that crime reference number, so you can get some money.
That's it,
so if you live on a council estate, if you're one of the poorest people and your meagre possessions are nicked, and this is what often happens, often the poorest people suffer, but they're not insured, so those crimes literally go unreported. And so these evil people who target the vulnerable carry on doing it. And they know, even if they go to jail in the 1% chance they've got, there'll be an early release scheme, 40% of your time, out you go, and it's really bad.
Now, the reason I want to get an excellent ex-copper like you in is there's a certain brand of copper that as soon as you put this to, so you haven't solved a single burglary in 3 years, 166 neighbourhoods, they will go, oh, well, this is due to cuts. This is due to Tory cuts. We haven't got enough police officers and all that. Well, you know, OK, I guess that's probably, there's a certain validity to that. We can always do with more cops. However, the Tories did put 20,000 extra cops on the beat. I would suggest that the problem is it's prioritising what cops actually do. You know, what is it? The 25% of all coppers never leave the police station.
Well, I did the FOI request, the Freedom of Information Act request, that found that 70% of the Met had not arrested one person in a year. And Kevin, what you've got to do is, I challenge, anybody can do this, go onto your local police website and type in performance, and it will come up with how many ethnic minority officers they employ, what's the stop and search ratio. It will not say we've caught this amount of burglars or we've caught this amount of robbers. So you can see straight away the focus. And somebody sent me a Wiltshire Police magazine, join the Wiltshire Police, and it featured 2 inspectors. Now you think, would it feature like a detective inspector who caught a murderer and a rapist and a uniformed inspector who targeted a local area and predominant crime? No, both of these inspectors had been on the diversity action team, one of them in the policy department. They were the wrong people, but of course they're wearing rainbow epaulets or whatever else they need to do. And the trouble is, again, it's the most vulnerable in society who suffer for this.
Yeah, we've got coppers that should solve crimes and catch the bad guys. Instead, you've got a lot of chief coppers, chief constables especially, who talk about nothing except for community relations and dancing the Macarena and all that sort of thing. As I say, I think the problem with the police is not that they haven't got enough coppers, it's that they don't get the coppers to do the right stuff. For example, there are a disproportionate amount of police officers spend their time investigating hate crimes, hurty words and nasty
or
things.
Non-crimes.
Non-crime hate incidents. Yeah, that has to stop. A recalibration of how we use the police officers that we got would help, wouldn't it?
It would, but how's it going to change? You had 14 years of an alleged Conservative government to sort this out. Now we've got a left-wing government who believes all that. Who often, many of the politicians now, the ministers, will believe that the criminals are victims of crime. You've got the bizarre situation of the Justice Minister, Mahud, saying, if we don't release all these criminals, it'll be a breakdown in law and order. Well, surely releasing criminals, it creates the problem.
Yes, it looks like they're going to release 40,000 dangerous criminals, so that's something to look forward to. Let's move on, Mike, because you are a search expert, former head of the search unit in the Met Police, so you'll have some interesting observations, I'm sure, about the Jay Slater case. So, missing Tenerife Brit, been disappeared for 29 days. It was 29 days ago that we heard that he'd phoned a friend in the holiday zone. He was in this remote area on the north of the island. Now, that phone call was made from a place just a few yards from where his body was found yesterday after 29 days. Now, it's difficult terrain, I get that. But that seems a bit strange. Why did it take 29 days to find him so close to where the last report of him was?
Well, to clarify, I was the head of a missing persons unit.
Okay,
so with that, I would say I'm surprised, given the proximity. But looking at the terrain where you've got a helicopter actually winching the body out, how far? I'd be interested to know how deep is the ravine that he was actually found in. What surprises me is how the Guardia Civil, the Spanish National Police, have said, we're not searching, but then they were searching.
That's what I wanted to ask you. They made a big thing. It was 2 Sundays ago, we've called off the search, but they hadn't. So there was this strange lack of communication with the public. There were no press conferences, there were no posters put up, no announcements, no calls for help. The only thing they did was to lie and say they've called the search off when they hadn't.
It was
How
bizarre.
odd.
It was odd in the sense that if you look back, we're as guilty in this country. If you look at the Nicola Bulley investigation, where she sadly drowned in Lancashire, the Lancashire police messed all the PR up. They painted a false narrative about her life, which was eventually found out. And with this as well, they've created this, we've stopped searching, and then the vacuum is then filled, with stolen Rolex watches, drug dealers, missing boats and all sorts of stuff. And if they just kept people informed, look, we're continuing the search, they could have asked for more specialist help. There's money there, apparently, that they could have used to call in all sorts of specialist search teams who've got expertise about going down these ravines, and he may have been found sooner. But it would see, the only, I suppose, good thing about the whole thing is at least the family's got some closure. It's not the end that they would have wanted, but the worst scenario is that somebody is simply missing forever and there's no end result.
I suppose it's obviously his family are very, very upset, and they're asking serious questions of the Spanish police force there. But I suppose at least it brings some closure.
It does, that's
it's important to find the kid, but it does look as if this is a kid, it's his first trip abroad, he's ended up in a weird place, and he's just fallen off the mountain.
It would seem so. I mean, we know he's got a conviction for a serious offence. We know the person he was with was a drug dealer. There's all these bad smells around the whole thing. But it would seem that, well, we'll hear from the post-mortem and the toxicology, but it would seem it's a sad accident. He's fallen down a ravine.
Yeah, sad end to a great mystery, but I think the mystery has to an extent been solved, but still questions to be asked about this odd police search, and the family want some questions answered, but at least they know, at least they've got a body. It's very, very important, that moment. By the way, while you're here, I've got to break this news. A Greater Manchester police officer has been arrested on suspicion of sexual touching, misconduct in a public office and cyber flashing. You know, we don't know who that is, but I mean, coppers, this didn't used to happen. It's happening all the time now.
Well, it's dreadful. And what you've got is a real bad vetting situation. So I've said this before on this programme. When I joined the Met, I was a soldier in Northern Ireland. The RUC sergeant came to see me in the barracks. If I'd lived in Bolton, the sergeant would have come to see me and my family, and you can smell badness really around there. Everything, we'll be clever. We'll do it all online. And sometimes these officers, the first time they meet the inspector is in person is when they turn up with a bag for training. No one has ever assessed it all that time while they're applying and doing exams. Human behaviour, human interaction, you can sniff out the bad ones at that point. You can't do that on Zoom.
Exactly right. I mean, I don't know if they've... Well, I know they haven't changed it. They're still admitting coppers into the police force who haven't been interviewed by anybody. They just fill out a form. That's got to be wrong. You've got to assess the character of people you want to be...
And their family. It's the whole scenario. That's what you're bringing into the police. You cannot have a situation where you've got bad people around the officer joining. That's why you get all these corruption cases. But there seems to be a lot of sexual deviance. It's
odd, isn't it?
It's a lot of that.
And a lot of domestic violence among coppers.
It's just a horrible situation, and it could be stopped by properly interviewing the people face to face before they join.